I'll take questions for, say, 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll sign some books. Question? Yeah?
What's that beast on your wrist?
What's the beast on my wrist? My new steampunk wristwatch, made by this great Japanese designer whose name I keeps being blown out of my buffer. I think it's the sleep deprivation from the tour, but you can, if you Google Japanese steampunk watch, you'll find his name. And he normally just makes them for like galleries and movies and stuff, but an American magazine convinced him to make 4 of them to sell. So 2 men's watches like these and 2 women's watches. And they sent it to me to blog on Boing Boing, so I bought one before I put it up. And so not only is it super cool, but it has a catapult. So I managed to get this on the plane from Seattle yesterday. The DHS was too busy looking at people's water bottles to even take it. I don't know if you've read about these reports, but they keep doing, the DHS keeps doing these intrusion red team tests on TSA checkpoints where they send agents in with fake bombs hidden in their bags. And it's like the fake bomb detection rate's like 30%, but the water bottle detection rate's like 100%. And you know, that makes a lot of sense because TSA agents have a lot of practice at spotting water bottles, right? They got really good at it, right? But how often do they have to spot bombs? Back to the statistics of rare occurrences. Other questions? Is there any reason we can't close the door?
You know, at this point, I think we can.
Okay. Other questions? This chamber has no windows and no doors, which offers you this chilling challenge to find a way out. Any Disneyland Haunted Mansion fans? No?
Why do you hate America?
Why do I hate America? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't. You know, as I said, I think it was you who asked the question before. I think that, you know, when America sneezes, we all catch a cold. And, you know, I've always admired America's willingness to criticize other governments' poor records on human rights and on personal liberty, and I think that an insult to one is an insult to all, and whatever country it is that's eroding personal liberty and freedom, that's where the action is, and it's fair game for criticism. And particularly when that country is possessed of a document as fine as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Maybe in November we'll take it back.
Maybe we will. It's my hope. I mean, I think the last several elections have been won by an undeclared candidate called none of the above. And when the majority of voters are staying home, it's really hard to make real political change. So, you know, I think that we've had a politics of discouragement for too long, where we try to convince the other guy's supporters that if you vote for him, he's just going to sell you out. So you might as well just stay home from the polls. I mean, don't go out and vote for me. You know, obviously I'm not your guy, but don't vote for your guy either. He's just a complete sellout. And so election after election, the turnouts get smaller and smaller. And I think that that's just the wrong way to run an electoral campaign. I think that that's super corrosive and septic. It might win the occasional election, but in the long run, it costs you the thing that makes elections important. Yeah.
How many things in your house do you have that run Linux?
How many things in my house run Linux? That's a good question. All right, so we dual boot the Xbox. I have 3 laptops. My wife's got an Asus E. I've got a Nokia 800 tablet. I'm counting my office too, because I just moved a lot of the electronics out of my office into there. 2 Linksys boxes, and no, 3 Linksys boxes, and
TiVo?
no, we don't have TiVo, but we've got another set top that runs Linux, and I've got a Neuros. That's 11. At least 11. I'm certain I'm missing more. I've been on the road for 3 weeks, so I can't do that kind of detailed census of my devices. I mean, it kind of reproduces like cockroach DNA, you know. Yeah.
So where have you gotten the best and the maybe worst or most disappointing response to your book so far?
Well, I've been disappointed with any of the responses, but I think the best response in terms of just the right audience finding the right book was yesterday at Berkeley High. Those kids are super, super engaged and smart, and it's funny because the kids that I spoke to in the Midwest, who were also super engaged and smart, they all dressed like Oakland gangsters, and the kids in Berkeley High all dressed like New York hipsters. It was really funny. It's like the Oakland gangster has moved to Chicago, and you know, everyone in Berkeley is dressing like an extra from Juno. It's really, I mean, not that they weren't snappy dressers, they look great and all. But they were really into it, and they had good questions. I had some pretty good questions in Redmond, in Washington State, outside of Seattle. Probably the most disappointing response I got, although it wasn't the whole of the response, was in Joliet, Chicago, where they asked me what kind of car I drove, and I said, I don't drive a car, I don't have a car, and they nearly booed me off the stage. And I totally get that, because Joliet, when you drive there from Chicago, it's like being one of those Flintstones cartoons where they recycle the backgrounds and the same 6 houses go by over and over again, only it's the same strip mall with the same 6 stores. And if I lived in Joliet and didn't have a car, I'd probably go crazy. So I totally get the blank look of absolute disbelief that someone gives you when you announce that you're an adult with money in your pocket who didn't spend it on a car. But of course, it's $20 a day just to drive a car in the center of London. It's $14 an hour to park it, and it's $8 a gallon to fill it up. So there's plenty of reason. And the land speed of surface vehicles in London hasn't changed since the Great Fire. It averages 7 miles an hour.
Do you ride your bike in London?
Do I ride a bike? No, because I still look the wrong way when I get off the curb.
Okay.
My wife has forbade me getting a bike until I can reliably look the right direction when I get off the curb.
They don't have the arrows pointed everywhere?
They do, but I still, it's got to be fast on a bike. Yeah.
So I've read a bunch of your books, and I know you're very cutting edge in terms of technology and politics. And so, how far ahead of the wave do you like to be?
How far ahead of the wave? I like to be about 7 minutes behind the leading edge, which is, since most people are kind of a half hour, it lets you predict the present and make it look like you're predicting the future. So you take things like a couple of years ago, there was a big kerfuffle at a video game conference. I think it was GDC, but it might have been a different one, about the first reports of gold farming, which is people who work in sweatshops playing video games to amass virtual wealth that's then sold to wealthy players using eBay. I wrote a short story about it, right? And of course the practice grew, so more and more people found out about it, and every now and again some large, less specialist media outlet would run a story about it, the Washington Post or something. And every time that happened, people would write to me and go, oh my God, you predicted this. It's like, yes, I predicted it after it started happening. I predicted the thing that was already going on. And it's, that you can look pretty prescient just by predicting stuff that's already happening. I think that's the kind of the science fiction writer's job, is to examine the way technology is changing the world in the present. And you use the future as a way to illustrate your views about the present.